keep it serious, but I couldn't. It was too funny. How are you doing, Suzuki?
Sarah Louise, how are you?
Louise. I'm doing pretty well, you know. Sunshine and birds are chirping.
You hate when birds chirp.
I love when birds... Well, actually, I'm like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't like birds chirping. You do. I'm fine with whistling. You are not.
Right. Well, I do find birds annoying, the chirping part.
Yeah, once I thought I was going to get one, and then I was like, nope.
Oh, my God. I cannot.
Right.
That is a terrible idea.
Terrible. What was I thinking for 2 seconds? You know why? Because I stayed at Laurel's house. You know Laurel from the Challenge?
Yeah.
I stayed at her house in New York, and she had a bird, and it was lovely.
Was it loud or just real quiet?
Real quiet. Just like real, just like tweet, like
soothing.
Like Snow White bird.
Yes.
Style. Mm-hmm. You know? So,
right. But that would be different if it lived in your house.
I'm going to end up getting a cockatiel that's like,
cockatiel. Good reference.
It sounded like that. I had 2 cockatiels once, Salt and Peppa.
Oh
yes, that's correct. When I was little, I was probably like 8 or 9, and they were both eaten by raccoons. Is this one of the deceased? Right.
Yes.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Susie knows about all my dead pets. God, there's so many when I think about it. Like not mine, just like growing up, like we were animal people. And when you are animal people, you also experience like the circle of life, man.
You're like the Grim Reaper of pets.
It's horrible. That's awful.
P.S. You're going to love that it's episode 444.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, that seems significant.
Yeah, it definitely is. And that is very red. And I'm staring at a red book. And it was crazy because I was like, 444, that's right in front of me. And I'm like, oh, no, Sarah, it's
just a red book.
It's very ridiculous, Sarah.
Oh, red. That could be like spicy. It could be like we get in a big fight. Who knows?
What? A big fight? About what?
We're passionate, you know? So
we are passionate. We are very... Oh, and you know what we're passionate together about? Being angry at men who do stupid shit.
Oh, yeah. That's like the main...
let's do that.
Category. Mm-hmm.
So did you hear about the guy who was at the museum and broke the toes off of the statue?
No.
Okay, so in Italy, there were these Austrian tourists who were roughhousing.
Roughhousing. I haven't heard that since my mom in the 80s.
It's one of my favorites. And I always yell at Bo and Ren when they were playing, and I was like, that's roughhousing. Take that roughhousing outside. I yell at them like that.
I agree with you.
So these guys were roughhousing, and also when I dug deeper, I found out what was really going on. They were shenanigans, up to no good. They were in the original article I read that was on Vice. It said that they jumped on the statue, and when he landed on it, he snapped off 3 of the toes.
Oh my God!
Then, when I actually went and looked at what the heck the statue was. The statue is of this woman reclining, and he absolutely went up there to go pretend to bang it.
You
or
are
something.
kidding me.
Oh, I don't know his intention, but he went up there. We do. Okay, that we do. I mean, let's just assume if I send you this picture and I'm going to send it to you right now, and you're going to be like, oh, that's exactly what he was doing up there.
So she was in like a prone position.
Yes,
and he was clearly like, I'm going to hump her.
Yes, and the Austrian tourist, he broke away to take a selfie of himself, quote, sprawled over the statue.
Nope. Let me see.
That's code for trying to pretend to bang it.
Yep. Nope. Oh,
right?
No. Because it's like a boudoir.
Exactly. So you know what he was doing. Now, guess how old he was?
Okay. 25.
50.
Oh, who is this jackass?
See? And this is the funny part, is that this isn't even the subject of the article that but this was the standout piece where I was like, oh, well, we have to get mad at this fool.
Yes. Well, first of all, who roughhouses at museums anyway?
Well, apparently
kids,
a lot
maybe.
of people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because this is the article that I got so interested in. It was something I found on Vice that was what happens when you destroy a priceless artifact.
Oh my God, right. So it's an epidemic. Okay. Wow.
So, and it's really interesting because, like, you know, people go to museums and, like, accidents happen all the time, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean...
Yeah, what is the protocol?
And Lincoln's pretty good at not touching anything. You've never taken him anywhere where you've had to be like, oh my God, get down from there. And he was like...
No, he has other problems, but that is not one of them.
This was Jordan, my middle brother. Right. He was on everything. In fact, I think we got booted out of probably a few museums. He also got in big trouble at the Coliseum. In fact, I think he like picked up a piece of it or something. Like when he was like little, he was like running around. And I told him I'm going to get a call from my mom who's like, actually, what he was doing, and it's going to be 10,000 times worse than whatever I'm.
She's like not setting the record straight. She's like making it worse. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to totally be the truth. So he was like that kid, and so this article was all about like what happens.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. In the journalist research of a whole bunch of different cases of this happening, the museums never do anything.
Well, right. Well, it's insurance, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah.
They have insurance, and they said the worst case scenario, like the worst thing that could happen to you is like guilt and shame. Like they're going to like publicly shame you and make you feel bad. But some of the cases that there was only one exception that I thought, and we've talked about this on the show.
The little kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you remember. That's so funny. I couldn't believe it. That one was like $128,000, and it was some community artist's like bullshit piece that was so bad.
Piece of shit.
Oh my God.
Like we should be thanking that kid for breaking it.
Yeah, it was so ugly. And then it was like not even a real artist. It's like that just the artist's what is it? Like assigned value to it.
Right. It's priceless.
No, it's priceless.
Right.
But some of these stories, like, yes,
I remember because I remember watching the video, and I was annoyed with the parents because it felt like they were neglectful. And that's hard to, you know, okay, if it's a true accident, that's one thing. And if it's neglectful, that's worse. But then what do they do if it's kind of like intentional, where someone's an asshole?
I think there's a lot of these cases where people are assholes that they aren't getting in trouble for.
I think so, too.
Like, there was one case that they talked about in here. I don't even know if you want to call them cases. One incident when this elderly couple, there was a clock that was hanging in the Columbia, Pennsylvania National Watch and Clock Museum. And it says like an elderly couple began touching and pulling on its various bits to try to see what the clock looked like when working. And it ultimately caused the clock to come crashing down, and it broke it, and nobody saw it to, you know, press charges or sought any compensation or anything like that. But they're like an old couple who's like fidgeting. Like, get out of there. What are you doing? Get your mitts off that.
Do you think that the museums just think, well, that sort of comes with the territory when you open up a space to the public, things happen?
It does kind of feel like that because, you know, there was another story that was in there about a little boy, and I can't remember where it was. I want to say the museum was in Japan, and he knocked over a vase that was this old, they call them puzzle vases, which is kind of like the irony, and it broke into 65 different pieces, and the little boy was distraught. Like, he was so sad and so upset over it.
That makes a difference.
Right? It totally does. Mm-hmm. And the museum, like, knew that he felt really bad, so they went to, like, great lengths to put the piece back together just so they could show it to the little boy so he wouldn't feel bad. So it's like, it really just shows that, like, museum people and art people are the nicest and don't want anything bad to come from it. One of the stories that was cracking me up, though, was this, I can't remember how old the person was. I think it was somebody who was older, but it was in 2006, and this guy tripped over his shoelace, and he crashed into this like priceless urn, but then it was like world's most expensive dominoes, because then he hit not one, not two, but three of them. It was like that one hit another one and then hit another one, like out of a movie.
Oh my God.
Could you imagine? I'm feeling faint right now.
Sarah's going to breathe into a paper bag.
I do. I have to. I'm dying because I couldn't, that is it. The kind of, I couldn't imagine. But that's one thing. But I am not into the horseplay tomfoolery. They should have, I don't know, punishment for that. I don't know. Some kind of, laws about, taking a selfie and snapping off the toes.
Did they, is there video of the horseplay?
Yes. You see him jumping up on the statue.
Get out of here.
I know, and that is negligence, and even worse than negligence. I mean,
oh yeah, that's
horseplay. What's the law? Where are my legal friends at?
I agree. That is tomfoolery. Was he smiling like he thought it was funny?
Oh, I don't know. It did not say in the article, nor did I watch the video. But I'm going to have to look because they failed to mention that it was a statue that was laying down, and we all know what he's doing with that statue.
Did this just happen?
Yeah, not that long ago.
Because I'm wondering if I do feel like when people finally do get to go out and live their lives again, that they're going to be acting crazy because
this might be right.
Maybe,
this might, yeah. Yes, it happened a few days ago.
No. What?
Wow.
Oh, the
incident with the toes. Oh my gosh, you're totally right. Wow. That's a really good point.
Because I
do think people are
speeding
speeding
more. Losing their marbles a little. They're speeding more.
Well, that's for sure. People are definitely losing their marbles. I mean, I'm, one of them, I'm sure.
Yeah, right, because there's no security or stability, and I think that is really unhealthy for most people.
Yeah, for most people. Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
I mean, the key, though,
this guy, he still doesn't get a free pass for lying down with the
especially if
statue.
He was humping. That makes me really mad.
And, I don't want to go, calling him a humper, but with no proof. But where there's smoke, there's fire.
Right. It'd be like if I knelt in front of the David statue. I think we'd all know what I was simulating.
We know what you're doing. Right, exactly. Yes, totally. That is really freaking funny.
Someone should do that. But the key to staying sane, I think, is to sort of have, a routine. And part of that routine, of course, is brushing your teeth, right? You need a clipped toothbrush.
Absolutely.
Come on.
And something to keep you feeling like a human these days.
I mean, that's truly the case. I got an email from my dentist because she closed her office because of COVID. And I'm like, see, this is what I'm saying. You got to make sure you're taking care of your tooth.
You got all of them. Hopeless or not.
Hopeless or not. Yeah, give them hope. Use your Quip toothbrush because it's an electric toothbrush, but it mounts on the mirror. You can get whatever color you want. So cute. Did you see how the one guy that follows Brain Candy Modern Dad, he said that he learned the trick about how you take off your old
Yes, I
head.
saw that. I loved it. And I was like, hey, look at that. We're getting a shout out for our trick. And it is fantastic. And it was a joy to watch him do that. It's like ASMR.
Yeah, it's very cathartic.
I was like, get that grime.
They send you a new brush head. So you use the old one, clean off all the gunk, put the new one on. It's very cathartic and cleansing. And they send you toothpaste, and you can get floss refills. It's great. If you go to getquip.com/braincandy right now, you'll get your first refill for free. That's your first refill free at getquip.com/braincandy. Spelled GETQUIP.com/braincandy. Quip, the Good Habits Company. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing bad happened to that guy.
Nothing bad happened. But I feel like we do need to make a rule, like with the selfie one. Like, I feel like they should have to do volunteer work where they can't use their phones. There needs to be some kind of punishment, that the equivalent of, because it's the same as graffitiing. You're just using the latest technology to deface priceless art.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
No, I think that's not a bad idea. And we do have a phone problem.
We totally do. But my usage was down 26% last week or something like that.
That is so funny that you mentioned that, because Lincoln discovered that on my phone, how it tells you. And he's like, how much time? And I'm like, I don't know. And I quickly closed it because I don't want to know. Yours was down 20%?
Well, yeah, because I've been making making an effort to use the phone at the right times and like for the right and then be better at not getting sucked into social media for nothing and using it for like the important stuff and whatever.
So you're being intentional.
I'm being intentional and try to have like a schedule, and like be like a person. Blah, blah, blah. So hard.
Why are you wound up today? I love it.
Oh my gosh, you love when I'm wound up. I'm not. I mean, just because like it's hard to be a person these days,
Yes.
Just like regular stuff. Let's talk about it.
Well,
man.
I'm sure that you're more kind of in tune with how people are feeling because you speak to more humans in your work.
Yeah.
And obviously that's what they share with you.
Yeah.
And have you noticed since March, like ebbs and flows in where people are?
Absolutely.
Okay. Tell me about
100%. It's like, and a lot of these are ones that you and I talk about on here all the time. Mm-hmm. There's just a vibe that's out there in the world right now where everybody kind of is, you go from like, it's anticipatory grief.
Yeah.
And it is the collective experience. And the worst is when you're like aware of it, It's like much easier to like walk around and like be an asshole and just be like, I'm just having a bad day and I'm an asshole. But it's the worst when I'm like, oh, I know why. Yeah. And I can't make it better.
Did you see today how Michelle Obama says she has low-grade depression?
Oh, thank you, Michelle, for normalizing low-grade depression.
Because
we all kind of do right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're like, and it's like silly. Oh my God, I won't cry. But it makes you feel like a bad friend because like the way where I really like connect with friends is like face to face. Like I need that. Like I'm not good on the phone and I'm not good at like, I'm just like, I want to be good at it, but it's like I can't get the same from social connection through that. Yeah. And so, it just isn't the same. And like,
Yeah, there's no substitute for being with someone.
IRL.
Yeah. And that sweet embrace. I mean, for real.
Right. And I didn't even think I was a hugger, but now I feel like I'm not a hugger, but I'm a toucher.
Yeah,
which is a weirder thing.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want full body contact, but I need to be able to hit you if you say something hilarious in a playful manner.
Yes.
And when I can't do that, it makes me feel like I'm,
And where is
like
void. How does it manifest for you? Do you get sad and want to stay in bed, or do you want to drink, or
oh man, those would almost be easier. It's more like I'm hard on myself.
You feel guilt.
Like, yes, I feel like, why can't you figure it out? Why can't you just look, your mom can do amazing workout routines throughout the day. Why can't you? Mm-hmm. And so I have to give myself that self-compassion, piece that like so many people need. And that, so I don't know. It's one of those, it's tough. I just got to take my own advice, I suppose. But even that is hard.
My friend on Twitter, I forget if I was telling you this, but she's a widow. Her husband had passed away a few years ago. And she was talking about how at that time, and now again during this period, she was using Buddhist meditation, which was specifically designed to focus on death, which sounds really bleak, but really can be so helpful because if you hit the end of the line and say, well, I'm definitely dying. Like we know that for sure. And you meditate on it and follow the steps. It's very freeing because then everything else is sort of like not that bad. Because it's inevitable. It's happening.
Really
if you can accept
and it
that.
gives you meaning in the moment.
And I find that to be helpful. It wouldn't maybe help everybody. You got to find what works for you.
Well, and here's the thing: it's not like a one thing is the there you go, it's cured. It's like a collection. It's like a bunch of little, like one of those. I don't know. I'm sure there's an experiment somewhere, or some like visual aid for this, where you put like big rocks in a jar, and then little pebbles in a jar, and then sand in a jar, like a bunch of different things that then fill up the jar, and then water that you need a bunch of different tools to make it all work. And stuff like that.
I do wonder, though, what causes the sort of stages of it because, those funny memes that people are putting up where it's like January through September.
Oh, my God. It's so true.
And it's so relatable because we've all been through this together. But it does speak to the way that, like, in March, we kind of had this collective feeling, and then it changed each month. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it's getting better.
Yeah. I mean, it's ooh. And you know what? Maybe it's if we were to take that calendar, now that I think about it, I think it's the same as how parents recall raising kids. How if you ask them how they're doing right now in the moment, they're like, I hate it, this is crazy, I'm in hell, these guys are a nightmare, I'm losing my mind. But if you ask them to reflect on what the past years, they're like, oh yeah, we survived some like hard times and everything. So I think it's just, if you were to shorten that calendar and you were to make that same meme with like weeks out of like March, it would look the same. What the moment we're in right now looks like crazy Lindsay Lohan.
And we've zoomed out, but in 10 years, we'll have even more.
Well, yeah, so just like hang in. We're fine. Whatever.
Yeah, you're like, it's fine. It's going to get worse. Like, this is great. Enjoy it.
What did your mom say that one time? Because she was like, this isn't the end. It's the beginning of the end.
Did she say that, my mom?
Yes.
Oh my God, yeah, what was that?
It was so funny, but it was something along those lines.
It was supposed to be comforting.
Don't worry. Yes, it's not the end. It's just the beginning of the end. It's just like, oh, right, we have all this time.
It's so stupid.
Oh, it just tickles me so much because, we have to laugh.
I would not want to be in your shoes, though, because I can figure my own situation out and make a system that works for me, but I wouldn't want to try to direct somebody else on how best to do that.
Oh, well, the good thing is I don't have to. I don't have to tell anybody. I mean, the job of a therapist is never to like tell somebody what to do for their life. It's to kind of help them find what works best for them, and it's kind of like what goes in, the jar of important things. So it's really just kind of giving them. Like, I always say it's like flipping on the light switch and helping them, like, see in the dark a little bit, or flipping on, or like helping navigate through, a dark room, and then you flip on the lights, and then you go, oh, that's, but then you get to decide where the furniture goes and how we move everything around and what to do next.
Yeah. But don't you find it, maybe not, but I would imagine that some people kind of like don't want to turn the light on a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why the therapist, what is the running joke? How many therapists does it take to change a light bulb? Well, first the light bulb has to actually want to change.
Right.
So that's it.
Well, if you happen to be one of the people that wants a change, I do recommend giving Noom a try. What am I hearing?
Oh, the cord to the cable that I was messing with,
interesting.
A little self-soothing, whatever way. I didn't even notice I was doing.
Has she gotten into craps over there?
I was twirling a cord, and it was much louder than I guess God. I thought. Excuse me. Back to whatever you were doing.
I was just talking about Noom and how...
Oh, yes, please.
I know that a lot of people are struggling to make the right choices and sort of stay on track. It has helped me maintain my routine. I have different goals that I want to reach, and that helps me stay focused and not think about, the things I can't control. And Noom is so helpful with accountability and goals that, are attainable, and those can make you feel empowered. They base all of their stuff on psychology and help you understand why you do the things you do. They send you articles and just behavioral ideas, and I just find it really helpful, and you might too, depending on what your goals are. There's a science to getting healthier. It's called Noom. Sign up for your trial today at Noom, Noom.com/braincandy. What do you have to lose? Visit Noom.com/braincandy to start your trial today. That's Noom, Noom.com/braincandy.
I love good support in helping people achieve their goals.
Right? It does feel good when you...
It feels the best.
Yeah. feel like you have all your ducks in a row, and because otherwise it can feel pretty chaotic in the world.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, ain't that the truth? Yeah, we need, and I always say it's kind of, it's like you need help. You need somebody in whatever way, whether it's a friend or a therapist or an app or a
no need to do it alone.
Oh my goodness, and especially like right now, it's so easy to be alone, like feel alone, right?
Right, literally and figuratively.
Yes. And I even tried to escape to a place where we can get alone even more, since we were trying to escape out of LA for a minute. Yeah. And Ren and I took a nice little road trip up to Cambria, which is like this quiet little town in Central Valley where a lot of Susie's favorite wine comes from. And how about how we had to be evacuated because there was freaking explosion?
Yeah, that is crazy. Tell me what happened.
Heck? First of all, this is one of those trips like, you know when you have like really high expectations of something because like you need it to be like you're looking forward to it for a really long time, like anything. Yeah. Really, this is just one of those trips where like whatever could go wrong did go wrong, sort of. And like 99% of it was my fault.
Well,
freakish,
not really, though.
And that was freakish. Fault? Well, that one wasn't. But I'll tell you, there's a whole. I have to tell you this part to then. Okay. I feel like somehow magically, like I don't know, our lives were spared or something like that. But so we're like going to this. We're going, and I have to tell myself this. You'll know why once I finish the story. So we're going on this trip, and we've had it on the schedule on the calendar for like. Maybe like 2 or 3 months now. And it's been like, oh, thank goodness we're going to Cambridge. It's going to be so nice. We're looking forward to it. So this is like my family's home that they rent out. And so, it's like through a property rental company. But like every time I've gone there, I've always had the keys. And like they give me I have the code to the lockbox. And they leave the keys right in the lockbox because, the time where the office is open right now, 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock.
Right, it's a little bit narrow.
Little bit narrow when I'm coming from Los Angeles and driving 4 hours to get there. A little bit at the end of a workday. So I incorrectly assume that the keys are going to be in the lockbox like they've been the last, 4 or 5 times I've gone up there. Yeah. Get to the lockbox at 8 o'clock, and we stop off in Ventura. We're like, this is going to be so lovely. Like, I have it all planned. I have a vision. I have a vision. We're going to arrive there. It's going to be so nice. We're going to get the keys. We're going to check in, and then the next day we're going to go kayaking, and then I have dinner reservations for us at the best restaurant. It is so adorable, and it's perfect because it's only outdoor dining, and like the whole ceiling is vines, and it's like the one place that like I would let us go out to dinner because it's like ideal for this in this small little sleepy town.
Totally understand.
So I'm like so excited. I'm going to actually wear a dress and maybe even shoes with a heel. Oh my God. It's been months. Whoa.
Your ankles are all weak and
yes, they're so weak. Like I don't even know. I'm going to walk like a deer, like a brand new baby, like a giraffe. Like that's what I'll walk like. But whatevs. My legs will look great. And so we get there and like we take our time in Ventura. We stop. We have like dinner on the water in this like place where we're like looking out at the ocean. It's so nice and it's a great meal, blah, blah, blah. And the food is so good that Ren's like, oh, I'm definitely saving half of this so that I could heat it up in the toaster oven when we get to the house. And we're both looking forward to heating up the fish and chips that were so delicious, like second dinner. That is an important part of the story. So then we arrive in Cambria. It's like 9:30 at night. And I go to the lockbox and I type in the code. And there's no keys. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the heck? So then I go back and I look in the emails. And the email like that I have, they just said, got it, like thumbs up. And nobody ever said, like, oh, the keys will be in the lockbox. Oh. So it is my fault for not following up. We call, they have an emergency number, nobody answers. They have a hotline, nobody answers. It is now 9:30 at night. We're in this sleepy little town. And after about half an hour of trying to get a hold of people and getting text messages that like aren't being returned and all this stuff, I just say, we have to just get a hotel room. And so we got to get a hotel room, which I'm like kicking myself for because I hate like, you know, like the house is right there. It's ridiculous. I like part of me just wants to like break in, but I can't. And I'm just like feel so dumb for not, you know, and now it's late and we're tired and like we just want to like get in the room, and like Ren's doing such a good job not being like, how come you didn't call to like absolutely make sure that we had keys and all this stuff? And I was going, oh, thank you for not saying that. So anyways, we get to the hotel room or like motel. It's just like this motel. The only one, because we have the dog with us, so it has to be a dog-friendly one. So we check in there, and I have to pay stupid bed and breakfast prices, which are ridiculous for, you know, when Las Vegas hotel rooms are $25 right now. I was just like, wow. Okay. It's like insane. I whatevs. And then, so we wake up the next morning and have to wait around because, again, the office isn't open. It's only open from 10 until 1. And then the worst is at 5:30, I get a message from, like, the owner of the property management company. And it's like, by this time, I assume you got into the residence.
No.
I hope everything – and I was like, sir, I did not get into the residence.
Wow.
Like, I did not. So, anyways, we end up going back in there. And we finally get in. In the office. Like, I had to wait until 10 o'clock until somebody arrived. And then, you know, went inside. And, like, you know, I didn't exactly wake up on the right side of bed that morning. And then, and the part that was the bummer is that the delicious fish and chips, of course, couldn't eat those because we don't have a nice toaster oven to heat that up in. Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, here I am, like, trying to, like, make it, like, Ren not super sad about how he doesn't get his, you know, dinner again. But I'm like, oh, God, Sarah, you messed everything up. So then we finally get to the place, and, you know, we're supposed to go, like, our plan was we were going to go, like, have lunch in the downtown area and then go kayaking in the afternoon, and then we would go to dinner. And then, so, like, I had all this planned, like, right at about 1 o'clock for us to be downtown eating at this outdoor restaurant. And instead, we went home and we took a shower and had breakfast there, whatevs. And at about 1:30, we go and we're like, we have to get some food. Let's go into town. And we're in town picking up pizza that we called in. And we hear overhead these sirens and people like moving at, like everybody's kind of like running out of the way. And this woman is, I'm like, what's going on? This woman is like, everybody has to get out. Like, you got to get out of here. They're saying that it's going to explode. And I'm like, what the hell? There are sirens everywhere. And I tell myself, this is what I like. First of all, nothing ever happens in this town, ever. What happened is some car, like, I don't know if it was, like, driving too fast or somehow, like, went off the road, but a car crashed into the side of this building, hit a gas pipe. That gas pipe exploded and then burnt the whole, like, corner building down to the ground, and they had to evacuate everybody. There was a helicopter, like, saying, like, leave the area, and you know, in my mind, and this was
we
like,
shouldn't have gas pipes like just hanging out
just hanging out for sure. But in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm just going to tell myself that me forgetting the keys has somehow spared us our lives, because what if we were walking down? It would have been exactly at that time at 1 o'clock when we would be downtown walking around. Right. And if that hadn't happened, then who knows, we could have been hit by that car or caught in that fire.
Maybe it was like a quantum leap type of.
Right? And so I just have to tell myself that, because it felt like one of those, like, are you freaking kidding me? What is happening?
No, that's
what
crazy.
am I in? This is a Twilight Zone situation. And I'm sure there were more things along the way that made me just be like, this seems weird. And so and like, when does that ever happen? When do you get that's never.
Crazy.
And if you saw how sleepy, like, this town is right next to another town called Harmony, where the population is, and I kid you not, 18. That's what we're dealing with here. We're small, sleepy towns. Right. We're like, right? Exactly. So she's like, I'm moving there. Do they need a mayor?
Sounds great. Do they need a mayor?
Do they need a mayor? Susie will totally be the mayor of Harmony.
Well, did you get it? I hope you at least had a chance to make sweet love on your trip. And I know you're probably fertile because of all those double yolks.
Yes. So, oh my gosh. Right.
So if you would like to know more about what's going on in your uterus, I highly recommend Modern Fertility.
Yeah, man.
Because it's this super easy test you can take right at home and just mail it in. And then they'll send you back your results about how many eggs you have, what are your hormone levels, any reproductive red flags that you might have cooking. And the beauty of it is, instead of it costing over $1,000 like it would at your doctor, you can get it for $159 and get the same information. So it's very empowering. Mm-hmm. It's just something that might help you know more about your body and your chances of having a baby or not if you're interested. And right now, Modern Fertility is offering our listeners $20 off the test when you go to modernfertility.com/braincandy. That means your test will cost $139 instead of the hundreds or thousands it'll cost at the doctor's office. Get $20 off your fertility test when you go to modernfertility.com/braincandy. modernfertility.com/braincandy. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
Yes. No, I mean, now you got me thinking about that. Yeah. Well, that was like the whole plan, of course, you know,
right.
like nice dinner.
Love.
And then the restaurant calls us and says, I'm sorry, we had to cancel your reservations because they've shut down the whole downtown.
Sarah.
And I was like, oh, come on.
So you're
Can't
not
I catch
there
a
right
break?
now.
So what?
Like you came home from this trip, right? And then you didn't go back.
No.
Right. That is really shitty.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. I thought maybe it was just like for a day you had to come back.
Oh, we did.
Home.
Oh, yeah, no. We had to leave. We had to just leave the area. We got back. We stayed up there, there, but we just had to evacuate the downtown area. They were like, hey, you know that restaurant you really like? No. But don't worry, because I ended up getting my whole pie. And I was just like, fuck it. I'm getting a whole entire pie from my favorite restaurant. I give zero fucks, and it's in the refrigerator right now.
What kind of pie?
I'm definitely going to eat like the whole thing. Oh, I am so glad you asked, Susie.
Oh, my God.
It is a lullaby pie. And you're like,
oh my God,
berry?
you've told me about these.
Yes. And it is a berry that you can only get in SLO County, San Luis Obispo County in Central California. And it is magical. And I'm talking to Ren the whole time up the highway as we're driving there about this. And like I'm telling him about this pie. And like we're talking about pies. And he goes, so what is your favorite kind of pie? And I'm like, this one. And he's like, oh my gosh, is it really that good? And I'm like, well, you just have to try it. And he's like, didn't think he was that big of a pie fan.
Yeah.
We went 3 days in a row. And
oh my God.
we got 3 pies. And
it's just out of this world.
It's so good. It's
Why
like
do these berries not grow elsewhere?
I don't know. I think it has something to do with the climate zone, or maybe just like they bred the berries to get like hybrid. I don't know. It's like one of those. But it's like super tasty. And yeah, I did find out they send them, they ship them.
No way, like Gold Belly or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because I like how Gold Belly does that, like regional food.
Oh, I don't know of this Gold Belly thing.
Yeah, like if you have an item that's sort of like known for in your town, it's probably on Gold Belly, and you can ship it anywhere in the country. Yeah, because if you're like missing your hometown favorites, you know that's this is not an ad. I just love it.
Right, not at all. Right. It's just like I'm just thinking about all the things that like I was like, oh, I would love to.
Right.
Isn't there some story about like Oprah having like fried chicken or like biscuits or something like that shipped in that was like super good?
I've heard this.
I'm for it. Yes, I'm super for that idea.
Well, and I think people really do want to be comforted right now, as we talked about.
Oh my gosh,
so I bet
that
it's
is
very
so true. I
have to tell you, we have a guest though, Sarah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Do you have anything else you want to add before we introduce her?
Nope. I'll save it. Save it. Yep.
So the guest today wrote a book. It's called Nobody Will Tell You This But Me, a true as told by me story by Bess Kalb. She is a writer for Jimmy Kimmel, and I followed her on Twitter for years, and she's a delight, super smart, obviously very funny. But she wrote this book, and let me try to paint the picture. She had a very close relationship with her grandma, kind of like you did with yours. And her grandma passed away, and she decided to write like her grandma's memoir, but through her. So it's spoken through the voice of her grandma Bobby, but she's the writer. So
I love it.
It's really delightful. Her grandmother was a working class Russian immigrant who basically lived in the American dream. And she's just this Jewish badass, like super stylish lady you can imagine. And she and Bess had this really lovely mentorship and relationship. It's so funny, but it's also, I think, very relatable to a lot of people.
I love a grandma story.
Yeah, like a matriarch kind of situation. And how, like, you kind of, probably this happens to you. You can, like, hear what she would say to you in a moment where you're about to do something and you can almost hear her voice like, don't do that, Sarah, or whatever, you know? And so it's a very clever approach to telling her grandma's story because it's in the first person, even though Bess wrote it. So again, just people wanted me to repeat the book titles more. So I'm going to tell you again. It's called Nobody Will Tell You This But Me, A Truth As Told by Me story by Bess Kalb. And I hope you enjoy our interview. Welcome to the show, Bess. All right. First, Bess, welcome to Brain Can Podcast. I think you're magical and special, and I loved your book so much. I'm wondering how you're feeling now that people are reading it. Is it scary and weird?
It's totally surreal. It's the kind of thing where, I mean, when I started writing this book, I was doubtful that it was even a book. I thought that this was just a very personal grief exercise for me about my grandma. And when I emailed my literary agent, like, I know you said just send me whatever you've been writing. This is what I've been writing. Apologies in advance. Like, ignore. And she was like, are you kidding me? Other people will get this. They'll relate to this. And that's made me feel extreme. That makes her feel very vindicated.
She was right.
Yeah. Thank you, Erin, who's brilliant and right about everything. But it definitely makes me feel like there's a community of people who love their grandmothers, relate to an idea of a strong matriarchy, whether it's literally a grandmother or just a mother figure, that there are women who really see themselves in my grandma Bobby's story. And that makes me feel like it was my life's work and her life's work is complete.
Yeah, it's really special. I wonder, though, if it would feel just so vulnerable to have all of it publicly available.
Yeah, you know, it's the kind of thing that didn't really occur to, it should have. I mean, it's a great question. And it should have occurred to me while I was writing this deeply personal story. But because it was such a sort of private exercise, writing this book was something that I did alone. I did as like a way to sort of dig deep within myself and ask myself, how do I really feel about my mother? How do I really feel about my grandmother? And how did they feel about each other? And how do they feel about me? This was something I did in private, not thinking not thinking about what other people would think of it.
Yeah.
And I think that was necessary for writing an open book, to not worry about other people, just keep it true to myself. And, you know, now that it's out there, it's the kind of thing where we had friends over to our backyard in a socially distant thing. I had never been friends with my husband. We had never met. We were like on opposite sides of the patio. And I said something like, yeah, Charlie and I met in college. And they said, we know, we've read your book.
Right, secrets out.
like, how do you know this about me? And they're like, no, you put it out there.
Right. Well, this happens. My co-host and I were on reality TV, and it's the same sort of thing where there's a difference now where people have information about your life that they didn't before.
You totally get it. And I'm huge fans of you both. And I love your podcast and what you've been doing.
Thank you.
You give it for women. And
it's a weird thing, right?
It's totally surreal. And I think in many ways it, especially now in quarantine and in this very isolated time, it does make me feel less alone, oddly, knowing that there are people who have read my story or heard my story on audiobook and feel connected to me. And that makes me feel like even in this time where we don't really leave the house very much, that I am connected to people. So I'm grateful that there's a community of readers who know about my life, as surreal as it is. And as there's, on the one hand, there's this tendency to close up and feel protective of that, which I'm sure you can relate to. And on the other, it's like, well, I put myself out there because I want to show that feeling these feelings about your mother and grandmother are relatable and real and important, and we should be able to speak about them. We should be able to be ourselves in public.
Yeah, and for folks who maybe don't have that kind of relationship with their grandparents or mom, I felt very envious. Like, that's such a beautiful dynamic that happened. And I wonder if, since you wrote the book, anything's changed with regard to your mom. Is it shifted or informed a new dynamic?
My mom was a big part of writing the book. My mom was my primary source. This is a book, for maybe listeners who haven't read it, this is a book about my grandmother told in her voice from beyond the grave. And it's sort of her telling her story of her relationship with my mother and her relationship with me. And so my mom was my primary source. Of course, my grandmother wasn't here to talk to me about it. And so she and I got really close while I was writing the book, because I would call her at all hours being like, tell me the story about the twins switching places, one going to law school for the other. Like, was it Georgie or was it Leo? And she would be like, it was Leo, here's the story. Or like, tell me about what it was like when you left your abusive husband and fled to Canada overnight. And she was like, here's what grandma did. And so like funny family lore and very serious family trauma and moments of extreme personal hardship, all of that went into my mom's participation in the book. And so she and I got really, really close writing this. And then when it came out, she was hearing from friends, people that she went to high school with, saying like, Robin, I didn't know you've lived through so much. And my mom was like, yeah, I guess all women have. My daughter just wrote about it.
Wow. Right. You're just really telling the oral history of your own family.
Yeah. It's like so many people's families.
Right. And that's one of the things I really loved was it is so touching and beautiful and special, but it's also very funny. And I'm pretty much in love with your grandma. And do you think she knew how funny she was?
100%.
Oh, good. Okay.
Oh my God. My grandma would like arch an eyebrow. She would say a line that would level somebody. Just like so scared. She once said something. I was like, well, Francis was at the opening of the Palm Beach, whatever it was, symphony something. And she was like, oh, Francis will come to the opening of an envelope. And it's like, she would say things and then she would just like wait for everyone to catch up. And I'm a comedy writer. That's my job. But I was very much the straight woman in this relationship. And that comes through in the book. She had the funniest lines.
Did she think you were funny?
I think she was amused by me at times. But
she was the star and knew it.
Totally.
I love that.
Yeah.
She's such a badass.
She really is.
Where do you think she got... I was very envious also of her certainty, and it seemed she was very self-assured and confident. Do you think that was something she worked on and just came naturally? What's the secret, man?
I wish I knew. There are so many things I wish I could ask her what her secret was. Like, especially now that I'm a mom. I just want to ask her what the secret is. But I think she really earned it. I think she, over her 9 decades of life, she was born with nothing. She was born on the dining room table in a tenement in Brooklyn. She grew up in the Great Depression, in poverty, with non-English speaking parents. And by the time she died, she was in this fabulous condo in Florida, the sort of Jewish American dream. And over those years, from being so humbled by the circumstances of her birth and really having nothing, she sort of earned this sense of confidence. She knew what it was like to have nothing. And so I think by her older years, she was somebody who looked at the world with this sense of gratitude and sense of not feeling superior to anyone, because she really was somebody who had nothing. And so that just sort of gave her oddly, I think it was a sense of like having nothing that made her know she could survive anything.
Yeah.
And so she just sort of walked boldly in whatever direction she chose. And by the way, and she also just had really good judgment. She was just right about everything.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Like when she would give you advice and tips and stuff, and we all do this. We're sort of like, okay. But do you ever feel like she always is right?
I mean, totally. Like the advice that she gave me that I think about all the time is like, if you're wearing something in a dressing room and you don't immediately want to walk out and be like, I don't know, how does this look to everybody? Don't buy it. Like if you don't immediately want to parade around, and and it's that works with men, that works with everything. Like if you kind of have to make it work, it's not right.
Yes, I took that. And I'm like, well, my grandparents suck, but I'm taking this advice. This is fantastic.
Totally.
Yeah,
that's another thing. It's like if you didn't have grandparents like a Bobby Bell in your life, like let her be your grandma. That's what this book is. Like now she's your grandma. You know all of her stories. You know her wisdom.
What is this sort of thing that when you were writing, where you were like, oh, I should have spoke to her more about this particular subject? Was it parenting?
Definitely.
What would she say? What would she tell you?
One of the first big fights that my husband and I had after our son was born, it was like the first time that I raised my voice. We don't like yell at each other, but I yelled. My son was born in August. It was hot in LA where we live. We were walking around a reservoir in our neighborhood, and I was constantly pulling his hat down, like putting on socks, hitting him, and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "He's freezing. He's freezing." And he was like, "Oh my God, you're your grandmother." But like I was bothering him the entire walk with our newborn. I was like, "Charlie, stop. He's freezing." And I realized like, oh my God, I am like, this is Bobby. It's
happened.
It's fully happened. So, yeah.
And I bet you do feel that, even though she's always with you and you can hear her voice, I bet it is a loss now that you have your own child, right?
Totally. I mean, that's there 100 times since my son was born. I wanted to call her and be like teething. What was the thing that you said about freezing something and putting it? Like, was it a strawberry? There were all kinds of not just like tips and tricks, because God knows those change over time. But really, it was just like an attitude of knowing how to love, knowing how to care, knowing when to worry, when not to. And just she was such a constant source of reassurance and comfort in my life that in times as a new mother, when I needed comfort and reassurance that only she could give, when I needed that champion to be like, you're doing everything right, everyone else is wrong.
Yeah.
That's when I really needed her. Yeah.
Tell me about the process of, I don't know, occupying her headspace whilst you were writing.
Yeah. I mean, that was a strange and surreal ritual. It was almost like a channeling, as sort of woo-woo as that sounds. I had to, in writing in her voice, I had to become her. And so it would really it would take me a little while to get into the flow, and then once I did, I would just sort of write for 6 or 7 hours at a time, which is crazy amount of time. I'd be starving afterwards.
Right.
Yeah, and she would just sort of, I would just access the woman that I knew so well, and just sort of let that flow. And there was a lot that didn't make it into the book. I just sort of put on the page whatever came out, but of course there was certainly enough to fill a book by the end of those intensive writing periods. And yeah, I think I read something recently that was like, there's a machine that read, I think it might've been Shakespeare or something, like read 10,000 hours worth of it and then could generate Shakespeare. And I'm like, oh my God, that's how I feel about Bobby Bell. Like I've listened to her for 10,000 hours and I can just generate her.
Did you always call her by both names?
No, that's just like, that's her. It's hard because I'm talking about the character.
Yes.
I call her grandma, like my grandma. That's, to the extent that like, I don't think I even really knew until I was an adult whether she spelled it with a Y or an IE. Like that was not, she's grandma. But now I'm talking about her as this character. And so I give her first and last name. Sort of mentally different.
She deserves both. And she is such a Bobby Bell.
She is such a Bobby Bell.
Did your mom over the years ever feel resentful that you two were so close?
That's a great and complicated question, and it's something that I still sort of interrogate and wonder about, because of course, her answer is no. But you know, there had to have been an element of, you know, my grandmother was not a good mother, capital G, capital M. Like she wasn't an affectionate mother. She, in reflecting back on her own experience with parenthood, had a lot of regrets. And so when she was this amazing grandmother, my mom was like, had been like, well, what the hell? You know, where was this when I was a little girl? But by the same token, you know, I think my mom was really grateful that she could in some way be responsible for my grandma being a good mother finally with her daughter. So,
and I think it's very common too. As you said, it's very relatable. I'm sure you're hearing a lot of people saying that we have the same dynamic, right?
Totally. Because I think that in sort of love skipping a generation, my grandma saw me as a do-over that was just sort of like, okay, this is my daughter's daughter. They look the same. Like holding this baby is like holding my daughter when she was a baby. I'm going to give it my all this time. You know, I'm certainly very grateful she did.
What was the dynamic between her and your now husband?
She loved him. And it was the kind of thing where like, there would be times where like he was the only person whose side she took over me.
On any particular subject or just generally?
Almost everything. I would be like, well, Charlie wants to rent this SUV when we're driving into the mountains, but we don't. And she was like, oh my God, let me talk to him. He's absolutely right.
I like how you would always go to like, you know, like yoga retreats or whatever, and she'd be like, why are you doing that?
Right, totally. Oh my God, she didn't understand why I would want to like sleep under mosquito netting and like be...
Yes, I was like, right, Bobby, tell her. That's unnecessary.
Oh, totally. She's like, go to a resort. I know I could like, you, and she was like, you know resorts in that area.
You're pampered, girl.
I know. That is definitely something I have inherited from her though. There are moments of like, all of my moments of indulgence, I'm like, this is just this is what my grandma would do. So, you know, deal with it.
Yes, do that. I support it. How do you feel just generally about people knowing so much about your grandma and maybe their commentary on the book? Doesn't it feel more personal when you're speaking about, it's even more than just a memoir, because if someone is mean about your grandma, that's way worse.
Oh my God, 100%. I'm so protective of her. There's, you know, I think probably a lot of people feel this way about like their mother and grandmother. It's like, you can say anything you want about them, but the second someone else is like, yeah, she's awful, you're like, excuse me.
Yeah, no.
Like, only I. But I think fortunately the reactions have been so positive. Yeah. People who read this book just fall in love with her. And that's not a credit to me and at all, or the writing. It's 100% a credit to her and her voice and her stories. And so that's, you know, I'm glad that she was able to have the last word and have people be on her side as much as she wanted them to be.
Do you want to keep writing books, or do you feel like this is one and done?
You know, when I first wrote this, I was like, and scene. Like, that's like, this is my life's work. Like, how could this was what I was put on earth to do, to write my grandma's story. But now I'm writing my next book. And yeah.
My God, that's exciting. How did that feel?
It feels great. I had such a intense time writing this book. I really felt like myself doing it. I was like, I've written for a man. I've written for Jimmy Kimmel for 8 years before leaving the show in April, and I had always written for a man. This was the first time I was writing for myself, and I realized that was really empowering. I like doing it.
Wow, that's really special, and you're so talented, and it makes me sick and mad about it, but it's so exciting. We have one thing that we always ask each person on the show. If you own a car, what do you keep in the trunk of your car?
Okay, well, I have a baby. And
not in the trunk, though.
No, I have a baby. No. So in my car, my car is so full. I feel like before I had a kid and after I had a kid, what's in my car is very different. Now it's like a car.
Yeah, what was it like pre-baby?
Previously, it would be like a yoga mat, maybe like a water bottle, a beach towel, some sunscreen because I burn even just walking outside. Now it's like we've got the travel stroller. There's like a full, there's like,
yes.
There's, oh my God, there's like a lifetime supply of like water wipes, is like fancy diapers.
So much stuff.
So much stuff. A hat, a sweater, like.
So many sweaters. You might get chilly. You don't want to get chilly.
As my grandma would say.
And that's what we feel like, is that whatever's in the trunk of your car really does define where you are in your life. And baby time, there's so much gear.
Oh my God, there's so much gear. It's like a carnival moved in.
When you're at home, like quarantining with a baby, or a young child, is it better because you don't have to actually go out, or is it terrible?
You know, it's amazing for him. This is like the greatest time, which is really sweet to be around. Like, I'm around this sweet pumpkin who's having so much fun because he's 10 months old. So it's like, mom and dad are always here. They are constantly paying attention to me. I'm not being like handed off to somebody else. This is like, so he's thriving. And
that's funny. I really never thought about that they are living their best life, these kids.
Totally. It's not like he has friends he misses. No offense to him.
He's cozy, right? Okay. What about for you? Nightmare?
Well, you know, it's different every day, but, you know, I feel like the best way to sort of deal with it is to live in the here and now. And I'm so grateful for having a home and everything I need. We're all healthy, and like, I feel very grateful to be able to weather this like unscathed. And so I'm just holding on to that.
Well, I'm grateful that we at least have Zoom.
Yes.
And I know, since you said that Bobby liked being the star of the show, I think she is very much enjoying this whole scenario, right?
I like to think that. I really do.
Yeah, that's fun. And I just hope you do keep writing, because it's you have such a gift, and your book is wonderful, and I hope everyone reads it. I know our listeners will love it too, so thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you so much.
You're off the hook, man. Thank you so much, Bess.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
You too.
Have a good one.